Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the country. I'm just going to mute one of my tabs that's suddenly making pinging noises in the background. Uh, this new version of the studio that we're using has got AI generated music, and which is kind of cool. And I chose one that said corporate, and I'm like, oh, that's probably something appropriate. And it was all like bing, 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 bing. So sorry about that if you feel like it's a bit weird. So many people already joined us. I'm really pleased. We've got Doug Filtro, blah blah blah. Hello, mother. Hello, father. Yes, that's it. I totally get where you're coming from there. I remember that well. And Doug Filtro say, "Here I am at Camp Granada." Yeah, I know that song as well. Knut is here. Greetings from Norway. Knut emailed me recently as well. And and producer Martha will be interested to hear that Doug is in Victoria in British Columbia in Canada. So there you go. Paul says hi, hello, Paul. And Daniel Gonzalez Pena says hello, everyone from Colombia. Thank you very much for joining us. Dimitri, hello there from Ukraine. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're keeping safe. It's a horrible situation. War affects everybody. I understand absolutely. Greetings from the Ivory Coast. Wow, fantastic. And Nigel mentioned my horrible twinkly elevator style music. Yes, I'm sorry. I'll do something cooler next time. We might have to have the Code Monkey music come back at some point. We normally keep that for code camps, but you get it. And as Doug says, global representation, very cool. Yes, there's always someone from almost any country. You could literally throw a dart in a map and you'll find some here. It's absolutely outstanding. I really appreciate it. Behind the scenes today is my guest. He's a very quiet at the moment. We've got him silenced, but it's Erwin Denissen, who is an absolutely fantastic developer. The video we're going to show you is pre-recorded. It's an hour long. And Erwin goes into a lot of detail about his product, which is brilliant. It's FontCreator. I think let me just check. I have got it does a slightly weird thing with the graphic there, but you get the message. FontCreator is the name of the app. If you scan that QR code, you'll go directly to Erwin's site and be able to see what it's all about. And just in case, you can also go to his website there at HighLogic.com. Very, very nice product. I've seen it before. We've actually had it demoed in one of the code camps. I'm not sure which one, but it's a really cool app. And what this webinar is about is Erwin really explaining what his app does behind the scenes. He's going to show you quite a lot of the code. But he's also going to talk about one of the things he did, which is there's a couple of things. First of all, he discusses how he converted from VCL to using FireMonkey. Now, I'm a big fan of FireMonkey. I think it's really a great framework, and it's come on in leaps and bounds. It's 12.0. When we built Skier in, it's really great. A few little quirks about the way it works. Sometimes it throws me because I worked for 20 odd years in VCL, and then suddenly FireMonkey, there's different properties for left and right and things like that. But Erwin talks about what his decision was behind using FireMonkey after having used VCL for many years, and also the challenges he met to do with going from a Windows-only product, which is what it was before, to a Mac product. So it's now Mac and Windows. It's a very in-depth video. I hope you stick with me. At the end of the video, Erwin's going to join us live in the studio as well. So he'll be taking your questions. If you've got any questions, if you type them in that little question box. And if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on LinkedIn, can you click on the like and subscribe button? We won't know who you are. We can't spam you or anything like that. But it really, really helps, because what will happen is when we do go live, and we had a little bit of a confusion about the start time. We're always going to be at this time, Tuesdays and Fridays, always this time, because it seems to work for most people. But if you're watching us, and especially on replay or something like that, if you click on that like and subscribe button and then click on the little, I think it's a bell icon in YouTube, you'll get notified when we do go live, just in case we miss up the dates and times. And there's another good reason for that. Excuse me. I have a couple of videos that are not on our schedule, and we're probably going to push them out on a different day. It might be a Thursday or a Wednesday, I'm not sure yet. But I've got already 2 interviews in the can and 2 webinars that I haven't got a slot for on a Tuesday or a Friday because we filled them all up. So if you can, make sure you like and subscribe, then you'll get notified of them. We all know you anyway. But and also Einstein says, hello, this is the Frenchie from Nantes here. Salut, mes amis. Thank you for joining me from France, all of you. I really appreciate it. And Patrick is always busy at the moment, so I don't think he's around. He might be. He usually says like that. Anyway, enough of me chatting and saying hi to all of you. We're going to go straight into the video. I'll see you in an hour's time for a live Q&A, but I'll ask the questions in the question box, and I'll star the good ones, and we'll respond to them later. Okay, see you soon.
Hello everyone, I'm Erwin Denissen. My journey with Delphi and software development has been both challenging and rewarding. Back in 1995, during an internship at Eindhoven University of Technology, I became an early adapter of Delphi 1. I used it to develop an interactive map, an innovative project at the time that sparked my passion for programming. In 1997, during my time at Fontys University, I proposed developing a font editor for Windows as my graduation project. This was a bold move, as the standard practice was to complete projects within established companies. Facing resistance from the graduation coordinator, who insisted I find a company to sponsor my work, I remained steadfast in my vision. Determined to bring my idea to life, I ultimately received approval to proceed independently. This made me one of the first startups at the university, paving the way for future students to pursue their own initiatives. That project evolved into what is now known as FontCreator. It is a powerful font editor that allows users to create, edit and convert fonts with ease. It's used by a wide range of people, from professional graphic and type designers to hobbyists and font enthusiasts. Driven by my passion for typography and software development, I continued to enhance the software over the years. FontCreator has become one of the most popular font editors today, known for its superior tools for editing and improving OpenType layout features. After many requests from customers around the world, I'm pleased to share that FontCreator is now also available for Mac. In addition to FontCreator, my company offers MainType, a powerful font manager that helps you efficiently organize and manage your font collections. And ScanHand, a font generator that allows you to create your own handwriting font in just a couple of minutes. Both of these applications are currently available for Windows users. I live and work in Bilthoven, near Utrecht, the Netherlands, and I'm excited to share my experiences with you today. In this webinar, I'll demonstrate some of FontCreator's basic and advanced features and provide insights into developing it with Delphi and FMX. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so here's a tour of FontCreator's features. You can see all installed fonts on your system, and you can choose if you want to open one. For example, we open this one. You can also choose to open fonts a different way. These are all the formats that are supported: TrueType, OpenType, the web OpenType font format, TrueType collections, OpenType collections, the unified font object, design spaces, the glyphs format, and also our own FontCreator projects files. And FontCreator also supports drag and drop, so this is an outline font, and we can also open some source files. This is a design space file which contains 3 fonts into one. So it has 3 masters, a thin master, a regular master and a bold master. And the beauty of this is that you can interpolate between these 3 masters. So in this case it has an axis, a weight axis. You can vary between the lowest 16 in this case and the highest 170. And you see this is all live interpolated. When you go to open a glyph, you can see how it looks like. It's all vector based, and here you can modify your glyphs. And if you modify your glyph, you can also instantly see your changes if you want to. That is in the preview below. I'll make it a little larger. So if you decide to make changes, you can see how this will interpolate between the masters. And thin is already very thin, so maybe let's put this a little back. So you can design your own fonts. And this font has outlines with cubic Bezier curves, and those have an on-curve point, another on-curve point, and 2 off-curve points in between. And by varying those, you can change the curvature. There are also other tools you can use. For example, if you want to design a new glyph, or you want to make changes to a current outline, then you can do all kinds of things like overlapping contours. You can decide to remove the overlap or to join. In this case, this is a clockwise contour, and this is a counterclockwise contour. So if we also make this a clockwise contour, then you can decide to merge them. It's an easy way to make modifications. It's common to graphic design software. Let me see. So a glyph also has a start and an end. So this is the start, and let me type some text in here. If you change these bearings, you will see that there will also be a gap between the letters. This is not kerning, this is something else. This is more like spacing. If you want to make specific changes to a pair of glyphs, for example the A and the V, then you have to add kerning or add kerning to your font. well, this font, let's open the OpenType designer and see if this font has such kerning pair. And yes, of course. So here you can see it currently has a kerning value of -60. You can make your changes if you want to. It's all visual, but the great benefit of FontCreator is that you can also edit feature code. For example, here the kerning is all in this lookup. It's defined, and if you like this kind of coding, or if you want to check specific changes, then you can make your modifications here, or you can copy and paste between fonts. It can be very well, useful. But a lot of people prefer the visual design like this, and all these changes are immediately reflected in the code, so you can choose if you want to make changes to the visual part. It will also become the changes are instantly affected here as well. So I'm not sure. Let's just take this one, BV. It now has -12, and I make it 200. Well, if we now go to that particular glyph pair, then you see 200. There are all kinds of features, OpenType layout features that you can add in a font. There are features that can be used to substitute a glyph. Let me see some obvious one. Well, let me take another font, and then I'll show you. Well, I'm not sure about the OpenType layout features here. Okay, so in this case you have, for example, for fractions, specific features, and if you enable them, in the fract feature, then you can see that it's activated and it's working. If you want to prove your font, the OpenType layout features of your font, then there's also a proofing tool, and in this case it shows you what part of the OpenType layout features is actually applied to the current text based on all the features that are enabled or not. So now you just see it uses some pair adjustment, in this case 3/, and also on the other side /2. But if you enable the frac feature, then you will see it will be, it calls a substitution table here to change the slash in a fraction, and then also these numbers are also changed. And after this has been processed, there is a chaining context, sorry, and there are another couple of substitutions, and this whole glyph run changes this input into this output. And if we want to, we can further adjust this, extend it, and there is also kerning in this font. So you have, I told you there are two kinds of features, substitutions, and there are those will replace a glyph. It can replace one glyph into multiple, or multiple into one, or one on one. But you also have kerning. That's the positioning features. It will change the position of the glyphs. And there are also other positioning features. For example, when you have an accent on top, let me close this proofing, on top of a base character, then you can fine-tune that. You can reposition it to your liking. And in this case, this font does not have variation, so it's a single font with only one master, so there's no variation, no sliders. Let me open another font. So this is also a variable font. This one has 4 masters, and you can choose, this is a nice feature, you can choose if you want to slant your outlines. And this is Arabic text, so we can use this text in the preview. And for Arabic text and other complex scripts, the OpenType layout features are very important because they are needed to make glyph modifications that are based on specifics for the Unicode code points that are used in this Arabic script, for example. So if we disable the shaper, then you will see the bare glyphs individually without any features applied. And in this case, these are all the basic elements of the text that is typed in the preview. And it requires a shaping engine to make it visible the way it is intended. So this is how you should read and write the Arabic text. But on the keyboard, this is the original input that was needed to show this text. And here, of course, those OpenType layout features are also visible here in the OpenType Designer, where you can see and edit them to your likings. For example, for Arabic there is an init, an ISO for isolated glyphs. There is also a MIDI. Let me see, that's the medial forms, and there are the final forms. Sometimes they look the same, sometimes they really look different, so that's very important to make those to include the correct OpenType layout features. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so we can also export such fonts. We can export them so you can use them on your desktop. You can export them as a TrueType or OpenType. Nowadays everybody calls them OpenType, but you can still choose which variant of the outlines you want in the exported OpenType font. So you can choose if you want a static font in OpenType, then it means you will have quadratic Bezier curves, and if you choose the CFF PostScript, you will include the cubic Bezier curves. And FontCreator can convert between them if it's needed on the fly. And you can also export your font as a web font, so you can test it here. It's exported, it's ready to test. In this case, it's a good way to test the font, because FontCreator has a very sophisticated shaping engine that is able to process the OpenType layout features as you already saw in FontCreator, but sometimes it is very smart to test if your font is also working in other applications and in web browsers, because they do not all have the same shaping engine, and there are some issues in one or in the other, or there are problems in your font and you want to locate them and fix them before you want to release them, of course. And well, there are some nice features like a glyph transformer. In this case, you can choose to make a global change to your glyphs. For example, you can say, I want to make a hollow version of my outlines, and I want to apply it to the active layer, in this case the thin layer, because that one is selected here. And then you can click OK, and it will be processed instantly, and you'll see it generated the outlines. You can undo it, redo it. All that functionality is available in the editor. Now, how are the properties of a font available? That's through the font properties panel. It's a rather huge panel because there are so many variables and names and properties inside the font. One of the more important ones are, for example, the font name, the design units, the size of the space where the font is designed in, version, description, copyright, the coverage, what kind of characters are included in the font. You can let FontCreator figure it out, and it will calculate the correct values here. And you can also decide to manually edit this if it's needed. And all of this is also allowing you to undo all your changes. This font has two axes, the slant axis and the weight axis, as I already told you. And you can also further define them. You can give them a different name, or you can include axis values, which are very important in case you want to use static fonts. Windows users can benefit from it because not all applications or support variable fonts, and in that case the static fonts can be used. Okay, now there's a lot that I can show, but well, what's more. The validation feature is also very powerful for people. It allows them to test if there are any glyphs with problems. For example, if you have this contour, and in the regular variant you have a different start point compared to the other layers, then when you start to interpolate, you will see that it will have issues because it's interpolating in the wrong way. You see it's now swapping, and that's easy to fix because we have implemented an auto fix interpolation issues button, and that will fix it instantly. Okay. Well, you can install your font if you want. Well, why not try it? And now the font is ready for use, so it's now also available here. if I can find it. Well, let me see, what was the font's original name? Alamera. Okay, well, we should be able to find that. Okay, well, it was right in front of us, of course. So, now furthermore, you can adjust the masters and properties from masters, the instances. This is how you can select the font instances in your desktop applications or in your web browser. And you can perform transformations. For example, here you can select all your characters and you can decide to rotate or skew. Well, that's about it about the demo for now. You can also, if you want to look, if you want to see more about it, you can just go to the website and download it from here. It's fully functional for 30 days, so feel free to experiment and see if it suits your needs. That's awesome. Okay, I will now go in and open up Delphi, and I will show you some of the issues I encountered and I've solved while I was porting or migrating the VCL based version of FontCreator to the FMX based version which now runs on macOS. Okay, so here's the Mac version. This is the main form. It's only a main menu and a timer to open some font files if available. And well, the main menu is mostly like mostly a copy of the original Windows version, but some menu items have been put on a different place. For example, the About box is now in the application main menu instead of the Help section. I have put almost all the actions into a data module to keep this one rather small, and it also helps me to reuse actions or data that is used on both the Windows and the Mac version. So let's start it on the Mac. It is now deploying. Okay, so now it will, yeah, it is now started on the Mac, as you can see. Let's open a font. Well, how beautiful is that? And here, well, the same glyph panel is used. Actually, the Windows version is using FMX based parts to draw the glyph outlines. So this specific editing part was very easy to migrate to the Mac, simply because the Windows version was already FMX savvy, FMX ready. One of the things that I had to figure out was how to zoom and pan, because those things were not available and still are not available on the Windows version. And this is done with the trackpad on the Mac. And OpenType layout features, as you just saw on the Windows version, are here as well. And here is the proofing tool integrated into the dialog to keep it more, well, organized. And what you also will see and probably noticed is this is the Dutch user interface. And let me put that back into English. Sorry for that. The user interface is multilingual, and as you can see here, I've made a nice structure here that's more common to Mac software. And I've implemented language support. I will show you some more about it later. And I also have added this language support into the Windows VCL version last month. Okay. Well, most things work the same. Here's optical metrics. Then this is a feature that calculates how to space the font. It puts the left and right side bearings at the correct place. Hello world. And now it's analyzing the characters in the font, and then it will calculate the correct bearings so it looks all perfect. In this case I put a spacing factor of 17, which is rather small, and you can see in the preview that it's more tightened together. You can play with it, you can undo and decide to use a different spacing factor, and you can afterwards also manually edit your spacing per glyph, per character. Well, some things that I had to take some extra time to implement is, for example, the way that when you have a modal form open here, you are not able to click on menu items. So it's best to just disable them, because, well, they just won't work. So it's only after you close the modal forms that you can access your file menu again. Okay, this is taking a little more time than I expected. So let's go back to Windows. I'll cancel this and we'll close FontCreator here. And I also want to show you the dark theme support. So currently its appearance is set to light on this Mac. If I now change it to dark, FontCreator will also show it in dark mode. Within the menu, I can also make one change to the view, because we can force a light glyph background if needed. That's, for example, here. Some people prefer a light background, and some people prefer a dark background. So that's optional in several areas of FontCreator. And auto is also working, and currently it's here, well, almost 6 o'clock. It's dark outside, and in this case the Mac also considers this a dark moment. Well, it's a light moment, but it's a dark theme. Okay, so that's one thing I also wanted to show. Okay, well, we're back here, and I can show you some of the forms. For example, the font validator. This is actually a tab control with 2 items on it, settings and results. And well, I made 2 controllers that control the actually I made 1 controller here, the font validation controller, and that takes care of all the logic, the business logic. And then it just starts a thread that will process the validations, and when it's ready it will show the report, the results in a report. It's similar to the way the Windows version works. It makes it rather look good, and it's easy to code, and a lot of the business logic is used in both the Windows and the Mac version. So I only have to improve 1 core to improve both Windows and Mac versions, and that's really a great time saver. You can see here I've added some translations. That's because the validations are also translated to the languages that are available. So for example, if the validation failed, or if there are no problems, or there are still problems left, then that will be translated to the correct text for the correct language. I will show you some more about the way this works. This is the language manager, and what it does is it processes all your elements, all your user interface elements, and it will collect them. So afterwards, when running it in debug mode, it knows which parts of the user interface require translation for which language, if it already has a translation available, or if it's not available yet, if the text fits within the element, if it's a label, or and it also supports the plural forms, because not every language has 2 forms like Dutch and English, like there is 1 level, or 0 levels, or 2 levels, or 3 levels. Chinese, for example, has just 1 plural form. It's always 1 level, 2 level, 3 level. It's different, and the translations also take that into account. For each language there's a specific form defined. Well, then when you have translations, it will process them when the translations are done, and it will store them all in an XML file, which it will use to generate the language files that you can include with your software, and then the software will pick the language files up, and you can show the available languages in your options dialog or wherever you prefer. So You can define languages by language, but also by country if you have specific language support. For example, for US-based English or UK English, you can define 2 language sets. And the benefit of using that is, for example, the US-based is in this case the leading one in my applications. But if you have only a handful of different language translations for the UK based, then you only have to provide those differences because it will still pick up the default English and apply only the specific ones that are available. So let me show you how the language files are made available. Well, let's go to the Mac version and go a little too fast. Resources, assets, and then language. And here you see the master XML file that stores all the translations. Here it shows you a to-do list of all the translations that you could still translate to the Great Britain translations, but since they are equal to the English default English one, there is no need to do that. And let me see, for the Windows version, there I have a little less languages support available for the Windows version. That's because, well, the version for the Mac is now 2 months available, and I added some more languages, and the Windows version is only available since a couple of weeks, so it has to catch up on localization. So how does it look like when you look into such files? Well, for example, let's just take the Dutch one. For each element on each data module or on each form, it tells you if it is the hint property or another property. For example, a combo box has items and it can be translated. You don't have to translate everything, that's up to you. You can choose to not translate, for example, an edit box, because, well, usually those elements are not translated or in different ways translated because the data comes from another source and is not as static as the labels are, for example. Okay. And well, it's basically more or less one unit that contains all the code, and then there is a specific language handler that is for FFmpeg in this case, and it knows, for example, it will exclude the data edit and time edit elements, components, because they are not really well good at translations, and I actually don't even use them, but maybe in one or two places. So here's a text control, for example. One significant challenge I encountered during the development of FontCreator was implementing effective localization to support multiple languages. The existing language tools available didn't meet my requirements, so I decided to develop my own language manager. I needed a solution that could support both VCL and FFmpeg frameworks to ensure seamless cross-platform functionality. Users should be able to change the application language on the fly without needing to restart the application, enhancing the user experience. The tool should also detect when translated text doesn't fit within the user interface elements, so adjustments can be made to maintain a clean and user-friendly user interface. Finally, it should be easy to set up and extend making it straightforward to add new languages and update translations as needed. By creating my own language manager, I was able to meet these requirements and provide a more seamless and accessible experience for FontCreator users around the world. The custom solution not only improved usability but also streamlined the localization process, allowing me to maintain consistency across different platforms and languages. I've also implemented this in my other products, MainType and ScanHand. I will now show a demo that illustrates how easy it is to add multilingual support to an existing application. Okay, let's start my app. My app contains two forms, the main form and an options form. The main form has some elements like labels, combo box, edit, some buttons, a main menu. It's very basic and it contains an options menu item, and that's an action actually that opens the forms option, and oh, not that one, the form, and that contains startup, elements and interface. We will later make sure that this combo box will work with the languages that are becoming available in the application. For now, there is no language support. So let's start it. And we see it can show the options dialog, and there are no languages. These are not functioning yet. So a basic application, no language support. So to include language support, we have to provide a master.xml file, and we have to include the language manager. The language manager will parse this XML file, and then it will know what to do, which languages are needed for translation. In this example, we see German, English, the United Kingdom version, and 3 other languages, but those are excluded for now. We can add lang sets if needed, as many as we like, but we start with this basic template. We also have a lang.excludes file. This is where we can store all elements that we don't want to include with the translated with the translations. So it's now empty. To start using it, we include the language manager unit, and in the constructor to create, in the form create, we will initialize the collection. This will start collecting all the user interface elements that are available for translation. It will read the master file from the localization folder, which is here, and it will then store all translations into this destination file. Well, after it has collected them, we want the language manager to load all existing language files. Currently there are none, but when we want to deploy this application, the end user will be able to load all the language files. Just be sure you include them with your application when you deploy it. So in that case, the destination folder will be something else. For this demo, this will do. Then in the form show, we try to set the language. We set it to auto, which means it tries to, it grabs the language from the current user on your system, and it tries to set the language in the language manager. So if it's available, in my case it is Dutch. If we include a Dutch translation, it will start with a Dutch user interface. Okay, let's start it now. So you see nothing has changed so far, but under the hood this already did a whole lot of things. It generated a lang.en file, but more importantly it generated a to-do for German, because that is one of the languages that we wanted to be translated. And you see in the master file a lot of elements have been added. This is not really something you have to manually take care of, but you can see this is a source file which contains all the translations, and from this it generates all the required translation files that you can deploy with your application. The German to-do is currently filled with all these elements, and we can ask, for example, AI or any other tool to do the translations. In this case I will add this to ChatGPT, and the question is, can you please translate the text in between all double quotes to German while keeping the same format? Also keep in mind the possible ampersand symbol is used for access key functionality. Okay, well, while it's thinking, let's go back to the options dialog and let's implement this part of the language so we can later select it. The language manager has to be included here as well. And then we can use the, I have a code snippet here. Then we can, I'll copy some code that I use to get the translations from the language manager. And these will be added to the combo box, and if the currently selected language is also available, it will then later on select that one in the combo box. That's about it for initializing the language, which will be called in the form create. Next, if we change the language, then we also have to grab the language that we have selected, in this case the translation, and we can grab the language and set it into the language manager. So let's go back to this. It has already been translated. Then we have to go to this folder again. It's very easy because now we just have to fill the done.de with the translated text block. Okay, so now we have translated the user interface into German. We can go to the options dialog. You see it's here implemented with German, English and bracket. English is currently the default, and bracket mode is some special feature that allows you to see which elements are supported for translation, and German is what we will see here. All the user interface elements are now translated in German. You will see this button no longer fits the text. Support me too. Yes, we will support you too. So there is a lang.no-fit. That is something that automatically looks for all text that does not fit into the current element. So in this case it's the button third party, supports me too. The German translation is too wide, it does not fit. You can either try to find a shorter translation, or you can just decide to enlarge the button. Okay, now let's see if it now fits. And it fits. So in this case it is removed from the lang.no-fit because it is already included now. The to-do in German now has a couple of elements left, and those are precisely the ones that we have added into the combo box for the language selection in the option form. This is an element that we don't want to translate because it is not static, it is something that we generate. So this, we want to exclude these. We can do this very easily. We can go to the lang.excludes and just provide them here. But in case there are more translations in the future, you will of course get items 3, 4, 5, etc. And it will be annoying to keep adding them to the lang.excludes. So therefore we just simply tell it to exclude this part, and it then knows it has to exclude the whole component. So if we run it again and we stop it again, we will see in the to-do for German that, oh, I didn't pay attention. In this case, the file is just completely removed because there are no to-dos anymore. Okay, that's great. Now let's add Dutch to it. That's a nice exercise. In this case, we just remove state excluded. And then when we start it, it will also prepare the todo.nl for the Dutch translation. And one more thing I want to show is what we also can do with some snippets that we can use. For example, you have some text that is not an element, but it is a piece of text that you want to translate as well. In that case, you can use a snippet. I've prepared one already here. It's a snippet record. It contains a name and text. Name is for reference internal, and text is exactly what you want to show in the user interface, and this is the default language, in this case English. And then we will use a unit with a dialog, and if we call the message dialog and we translate the snippet, this snippet that we declared here above, with a confirmation and a yes no, and if the user presses yes, then the main form will close, thus the application will close. Let's start it again and click the close button. Are you sure you want to close the application? Yes. Okay. So now we go back to the folder where we can see which translations still have things to do. In this case it is Dutch, and German is back again. And German is back again simply because we have now one more thing to translate. It's the newly added application confirm close. So this should be translated to German. For now I just be lazy and add it here as if it was translated already, but we want to do a full translation of the Dutch, and then we will also include, of course, this question. So let's go back to ChatGPT and ask to translate it in Dutch. It's basically the same question, but now we want it in Dutch. This is all the elements that we want to translate. It can be, as you already saw, it can be the string list, the items from it, or it can be labels, it can be buttons, it can be the hint of specific elements. And also, while it's generating it, I have provided this button. It is a TSP-TBX button. It's not a native one, it's a third-party one, and in this case it's not supported by the default language handlers that come with the translation tool, but it has been added into an extended unit, so you can keep those separate, and you can decide to choose if you support these kinds of custom third-party components or not. And you can extend this, or you can add other units to it. It just requires you to add a handler to the T-location handlers, which is part of the language manager. And then it will take care of the rest. Okay, let's go back and see if it has translated our request. Yes, perfect. So we go back to the folder with the source files, and the done.nl is still empty. We go here, we copy and paste the translation, and we save it. And when we now start the application again, it will instantly go to the Dutch one, because that is with auto what it detects as being my language selection in Windows. So it has translated all of the elements, and Dutch is here, English, German, and oh, it's all working. And if you want to close, you see the Dutch version along with the buttons, and yes, we'll close it. Okay, that was my demo of how you can make a basic application and turn it into a multilingual one. And basically this is how I've done it with FontCreator as well, and also with MainType and ScannerHand. So I hope you enjoyed my webinar, and if you have questions, feel free to ask. Thank you for having me here.
Well, wow. I mean, when I said to a couple of people, oh, I'm going to have a meet the developer thing, people are like, okay, well, you know, let's see how it goes. I talked about FontCreator and said that this is the first one where we've kind of done a meet the developer for a while. And the reason is this application has absolutely every single thing you could ever want in it. And that demo just showed it. I think, you know, it's highly technical, it's very beautiful, it's cross-platform, and it does all sorts of incredibly tricky things like translations as well. And the good news is I have Erwin live in the studio with me. I'm going to make him show up on our little side-by-side. There you go. How you doing? Oh, your microphone's muted. Is that me done that? That might be.
I've enabled it.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's not a problem. You know, I start some comments because some of them are pretty amazing. I'll start with this one, which is from Francis Moore, who's actually a developer I've spoken to in the past and talked about. Very impressive, comprehensive, well-structured, cross-platform, multilingual application. Not for me now, but it can see the potential as my audience includes young to old. So in my URL database, I'll tell you something else about it. The subtle things that crept in throughout your demonstration had me going, wow, the support for different themes under Mac, you know, where you said, oh, use the dark theme, and everything magically changed in the background. Really class, quality piece of code there. Very, very impressive. Just the way that you do the translation of the languages as well. You said to me, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is actually your own custom tool, isn't it? It's not one you bought or anything like that. You've created that translation tool. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Because it was too complex to find a good solution. There are a lot of good solutions for the Windows-based version with well, the localized strings in DLL or something, but that does not work on a Mac. And I wanted to have it on both systems and to have it compatible, so I don't have to have two solutions. So in the end, I thought, okay, I want my Mac version to be so good, so perfect, and this has to be included in the first release. Because at first I thought, let's wait and see later, and then in August I thought, no, I spent a couple of weeks and tried to implement my own language manager, and well, it's
I'm amazed.
yeah.
I am absolutely blown away. You are an incredibly talented guy. I don't know if you're aware of that. I'm sure people have told you in the past, but you are extremely talented. I talk to a lot of developers, and some of them like me, and some are like rocket scientists, and you are definitely one of these guys who I look to and say, that guy knows what he's doing. And I know I'm not the only one. This is Paul, who was saying some good things about you, and he said, hey, he's pretty good. And then he went, actually, this is an understatement. He's a genius.
Oh, right.
And I know Paul. Paul is a very creditable programmer himself, developer. But, a lot of love coming from people about what you want to do. There is a question from Dimitri, which I said we'd probably ask during the live Q&A. How do you solve the situation? I was kind of doing some other stuff at the same time, and I should know because I helped edit the video. But how do you solve the situation when the translated text is much longer and doesn't fit into this area? I always found this problem in my own apps when it was translated to German or Danish. German, every word in German has to have 58 letters in it. I swear to God.
Well, actually, after we asked the question, I showed a little more in the demo.
Yes.
What the translation manager is doing in the background is also calculating the required area for the text, and if it determines that it doesn't fit, then it will put an explanation in a no fit text file, and there you can see which language is not contains text that doesn't fit in that area. And then there are obviously two options, or maybe more, but the two most obvious ones are try to make the area larger. If it's a text area, you could make it multi-line, or if it's a button, you can make it wider, or you can just try to make the translated text a little shorter. And in some cases, I decided, for example, move up and move down buttons. I do have them in some places. They are in some languages, I believe in Polish, way too large. They use 3 words for it. Move up is very short, and then that is really 3 times longer. And it doesn't look right for such a small button in English, and then to make it that wide just for one language. So in the end, I decided to just make them speed buttons with icons.
Yeah, I think that's the way that Apple goes with some of their stuff. They quite often, let's do away with the text, let's have a button with a glyph. And actually that is kind of a Android and iOS really do the same thing for their apps, but only because on a mobile device you haven't got a lot of space, so you can't really fit in any text, and there's no concept really of a hint, so you can't have a flyby hint appear or something like that, which I totally get. But I still think many user interfaces lose a little from not having text on the screen at an appropriate amount, and I think that's why I'm glad that you showed the translation manager. You and I talked about this before, and the reason I wanted to have you on was because there's absolutely, you're the whole package. I mean, I know I'm saying this, and it's a bit kind of like throwing you compliments left, right, center, but the app is great. It looks good. Your website is fantastic. It backs it up properly. Even your sales page has got comparisons on which are very well done, and are clear what the differences are between the different versions. The fact that you've got a Windows app and a Mac app, and you translate the text for different countries as well. Everything about what you've done is really an example to other developers. I really mean this, because these are the things that sometimes people get wrong. I had one guy contact me today, who we're going to have on later, and his app's fantastic. But there's a couple of things that are wrong with it, and the one thing is that his website really sells it short. If you click on some parts of the website, they're just broken. And I think that, you know, when you put that much effort into your code as you've done, you've got to back that up with what happens on the website and all the ancillary stuff. And I really, you know, when I see the level of detail you've put into what you've done with your app, you know, like just the simple thing like the color theme change. Some apps just go restart the app and it will come back up in a different color. You know, that's how some of them deal with it. Oh, you want dark mode? Relaunch the app and you'll see it in dark mode. You don't do any of that. You know, you're doing it spontaneously and dynamically, and it's really, that's the way it should be. I know it shouldn't be an unusual thing, but it is, you know.
Some credit to you, Ian, because I used one of your parts of your code that you once showed.
Really?
That's awesome, yeah.
Right, okay, so you call it dark mode, I think it's called, or Delphi dark mode or something like that. Yeah, I have to say, actually, I originally saw that Marco Cantu had something, and he was talking about it, and I wrote the app, the routine whilst he was discussing it, put it up on a blog page, and he's like, "Did you already have this?" I was like, "No, I did it whilst you were talking." He's like, "Oh my god!" He was kind of cross because I think he wanted to, but it, you know, I wrote the code. He just had some ideas about it, but yeah, it's a little something that you have to really kind of pay attention to. It's the little things that count, and I think you're fantastic. I think it was worth the hour, you know, and I think we haven't had massive amount of questions, but the ones that we have make it clear that first of all they value what you've shown, and also everybody's impressed. Dimitri also said, "Oh, I'd be interested not in the program bit itself, but the features." He said this in the first 5 minutes, and I said to him, "Don't worry, he's going to show you what he did in the code," and you did exactly that. So fantastic. Okay, well, I'm just going to put the QR code up here. In fact, I'll put your HighLogic one up here, and I'll put a caption down at the bottom as well. So they can either click, you know, if they want to use QR code, go to here, and it will actually take you to here. So whichever way you do it. Because FontCreator is not the only app you've got two more. What one of it doesn't one capture handwriting or something like that, a handwritten font?
Yeah, it all started with FontCreator, and because there's also a part that converts bitmap based and raster based images into vectors. I at one moment decided to also make a specific application. It's now a scanner hand, and it takes a template of a filled-in template with your handwriting or whatever you want to have converted into a font, and then it picks up the whole template, and it puts every cell into the correct letter, and then your alphabet is converted into your font.
And the other one's like a font manager type thing, isn't it? Rather than
exactly.
Yeah. I have to say, I wrote a font manager years ago when I worked for a software house, and they used to ship them the Canon printers. Funnily enough, of all things, Canon used to get a CD as it was, and there were 7 programs on there. I wrote 5 of them, and one of them just happened to be a font manager. So I used to be a contractor, so you know I did a lot of weird jobs. You know, that was one of it. It was very Mickey. In comparison to yours, it was awful. All it did was just have some font examples. It would dynamically create bitmaps with the font examples, and then people would go click, and they would click on that font. It would install it for them. And I think it was just a loss leader for Canon, but that's one of the weird things I've done. I've done a lot of odd jobs over the years. But, I worked on a crossword manager and a Euro 96, official Euro 96 app for calculating whether your team was going, who they were playing next. It was another weird job that I've had. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, everybody is always working with fonts, or they are reading text, or they see advertising or marketing, or on your T-shirt or your car, whatever, your phone. There are letters and fonts everywhere, and a lot of people are not really aware of it, but there are so many fonts around, and well, it's really an awesome world to work in, be among creative people, and also have the technical side to develop the software itself. So there are two worlds, and I have combined them, and they're both my passion. So that's great.
I'm a very big fan of fonts and typography myself. My daughter is a graphic design artist, and she did a whole course on typography, and it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And there's a really great documentary called Helvetica. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Google it. It's a movie. It's by the same guy that did Objectified and Rams, about Dieter Rams. But Helvetica is all about the Helvetica typeface, and why it was invented and what purpose there was behind it and all those kind of things. But people don't realize the engineering that goes into fonts, and the kerning and stuff like that. I think a lot of people use fonts and it never occurs to them that actually there's a lot of power in a font, and the way that they have things like ligatures and kerning, the spaces between the fonts can make a very big difference between your work looking okay and looking very professional, when you're printing something. So, hats off to you.
Yeah.
Well, there's another little question here. Let me just see what this says. Hold on 1 second. It looks like you've won a fan, because Paul says, apart from already thinking you're a genius, he says they're very well priced too. So, Paul, you're not getting a commission for this, right? Yeah, Paul says, we know we can give Adobe a run for their money now. I don't know about that. Adobe have got very big pockets, and I'm not a big fan of Adobe, I have to say. But yeah, if you think so, great, good. Thanks for that, Paul. Well, thanks a lot, Erwin. And do you have any educational sites or repos? I'm not so sure that you do. You don't have any example repositories or anything. You did talk about the language manager and said that it's possible you may bring it out as a product in the future, which is great. I urge you to do that. I think that the work that you put into the engineering is something that you should release as a product. Don't give it away for free. Because I think that I hate saying that, because I suppose that I should encourage open source, but I think that good work deserves reward. And I also think that good work also needs encouragement, and it's saying thank you to people is not always enough. You've got to pay your bills and all the other things as well. So yeah, I'm not sure that this user's name, but does FontCreator support right to left connected scripts such as Arabic? I think you showed it with Hindi or something.
Yeah. I think halfway the webinar, I open an Arabic font, and it shows a preview in right to left.
Yeah, I think it might have been Hindi actually, which is a right to left script as well. But yeah, I mean, as
FontCreator is actually
yes.
FontCreator is actually the only font editor that is able to open an existing font and is able to parse every open type layout feature that exists in the font. Other font editors try to open it, but they always have to drop something because the specification is rather complex, and FontCreator is actually, I can say the best in related to the open type layout features and complex scripts like Arabic.
Well, Paul said it before. You're a genius. I think I admire developers. I meet a lot of developers, and I admire developers who are craftsmen, and you're a craftsman at what you do. I think the attention to detail you put in is obvious, and I think other developers watching this video, because we get a couple of hundred when we go live, but we'll get a couple of thousand on the replays and things like that. And people see this, they may have seen you before because you've been on a webinar with me before, but the level of detail in what you do is astounding. And I'm fussy about what I put in my programs, but wow, you go above and beyond the Call of Duty, and well done. It's great to see. Okay, all right. Well, we're going to call it a day there.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
It's not too late for you, I hope. I don't think it is. It's like 7:30 at night or something, isn't it? But thanks for joining us. We may well bump up. I did suggest that you go and talk to GDK at some point and go to their summit next year, because they're not that far from you in just outside Amsterdam. But you're in Bilthoven, aren't you? Somewhere.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Half an hour.
Yeah, it's walking distance for a Dutchman. Come on, you guys. After lunch, don't you like walk 40 miles or something just for the heck of it?
We cycle. We have
And cycle, yes. I took my wife. My wife absolutely loves Amsterdam and loves Holland in general, and the Netherlands in general. And but the one thing that she did say was, "Wow, they do a lot of walking and a lot of cycling." I'm like, "Yep, that's the difference with Americans. We do a lot of driving and complaining." So, yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Erwin, and I will see you again next time.
All right. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. What a great guy. It's amazing. Superb developer. You've got to really take a hat off to guys like him who put in so much effort into a product and so much, real, like I said, craftsmanship, really, in terms of the work that's there and all the rest of it. It's let me just see if I pick this. Yeah, there you go. I had a weird border around me. He's one of my favorite guys to have on, and you can see why now. Now, the webinar series is going to continue. We are here every week, twice a week, throughout November and throughout December, right up until Christmas week. So a holiday season, depending on what you believe in. I know we call it winter webinars. The Australians among you have already put me straight and said it's summer webinars. Let's agree to differ on that. But every week, Tuesdays and Fridays at the same time as we start today. We're here next Tuesday. Next Tuesday we have got, let's have a look. Oh yes, how to use web stencils to easily create modern professional superfast websites. Web stencils is a new feature that came in 12.2 of RAD Studio. It's a way of creating web pages where you can literally hand over the template to a web designer, get them to do all the fancy webby stuff that they do with their open-toe Crocs and whatever it is they do, and then hand it back to you, and you can output some dynamic web pages very easily with the back end written in Delphi and anything else that you choose. And then it emerges as a dynamic web page, super fast, super powerful, and we're going to talk all about that. And then on Friday, I believe we have, let's have a look. Friday, we've got another Meet the Developer with Tim Coates. He's an Australian, but we won't hold that against him. We've already recorded it, so I know exactly what he's going to say. But he's a YouTube streamer. He does a lot of streaming about Object Pascal. So it's free Pascal, Lazarus, Delphi, RAD Studio. Another great guy, very laconic, laid-back kind of guy. But he's also a parish, forget what he called himself, superintendent or something like that, which I had to ask him what that meant, because I'd not heard that. But it's some kind of Australian kind of arrangement. But anyway, great guy. And everybody says, yeah, so Paul's going. He says he'll see me next time. Yes, thank you, Paul. And Francis Moore says, thank you, Ian, as ever. Tuesdays and Fridays in my calendar. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. And we will see you this time again next Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye. I have to learn how to click the buttons in